Hi all. I don't think anyone has joined, so let's wait. Hi all. I hope you are able to hear me. Give me 1 minute. I'll just share my screen. I'm actually preparing today's folder. And then we can start. I think it should work now. Share screen and go to intro visualization. Okay. I think you all can see my screen. If you can just quickly confirm.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So let's continue. Okay. So until yesterday, what we did was we looked into a very small exercise of looking into the basic visualizations. We looked into box plots. We looked into histograms. We looked into some very basic functions of matplotlib. I can assure you there are far, far more. If we are going to cover each and everything, it's going to take at least 10 days for us to do a deep dive. So that's not what we are going to do. Instead, what we have already seen yesterday is that we have very good, let's say, documentation available by means of which we can try out different things when it comes to matplotlib. I just need to know what I would like to do. Now, uh, the place where I had left yesterday is where I was looking into the relationships between uh, each and every feature which I have. Right. So I wanted to know what is the relationship between this temperature feature as compared to the rest of the features. So we were looking into this graphs where we saw that dew point and temperature have a very good linear relationship. Okay, so I did not explain what is a linear relationship. So I'll just quickly explain this because it's a very important statistical concept, useful to do inferential statistics when we are going to look into it, and then for a very specific and most commonly used industry specific machine learning use case as well, otherwise known as a regression problem. I'm not going to explain what is a regression problem right now because that's only going to confuse you. But when we look into basic statistics, you'll come to know what is a regression problem. But then the ideology is if I'm able to find any property of this sort, okay, then what I can essentially do is mathematically I can try to fit a line that goes through all the points. Okay, it may well be a straight line. As you can see, this is like a straight line. Okay, or maybe the data is something like this. Maybe I have a data set where xy axis has some points which are like this. Okay, so over a period of time, as you can see, as the value of x is increasing, okay, this is x and this is y. So I just mark X into a different way. So as X is increasing, the value of Y, or as Y is increasing, the value of X is actually saturating down. So if I try to put a line, maybe it will look something like this. So this is not a straight line, right? This is really not a straight line, but this is also a linear relationship. So let's not get confused as to what is a linear relationship. Uh, Linear relationship does not mean that if I'm plotting X and Y, it should ideally result into a straight line like this. Okay, it may result into a straight line, it may not result into a straight line, but linear relationship simply means that change in one, okay, has a constant effect on the change in other, right? So that is what is known as a linear relationship. Okay, irrespective of whether the line is straight or the line is something like this or the line is something like this or the line may be something like this and so on, right? Even in case, let's say there is a graph and you are looking at a relationship, and let's say the graph is something like this. Okay, so you can also say that this is a linear relationship irrespective of this fall over here, because with some change in X, the value of Y has changed over a period of time in a sequence, in a format, in a fashion which is constant. Example given, we have this data which is for the weather data of New York City for the month of January 2016, right? So 2016 January data is what we have as a sample, and there we see there's kind of a linear relationship between dew point and the temperature features. Now, if this is really true and our sample is really a representative of the entire New York City New York City weather data set, then it's quite obvious that we can formulate a hypothesis or a question here, that is this always the case that temperature and dew point are linearly related, in the sense that as the temperature increases, the dew point also increases. So these are kind of tests that we are going to do when we look into statistics. As of now, we just need to look into the visualization and try to find out if there are any upfront relationships which we can find. Example given from here, it is quite clear if the temperature is high, the dew point value is also going to be high. We don't see any such thing in case of humidity. There are even outliers here, as you can see. For this point over here, temperature is something like 26, but the humidity is very, very high. It is near to 79. Okay, so it's not really related. Same is the case with this. Now, there are certain cases which we looked into where we could not see any proper relationship. Example given here. So this is like creating two halves of a graph, right? So I can say that this is one half of the graph and this is the other half of the graph, because the data has been segregated into two halves. So in this kind of cases, what is usually the problem is your representation is wrong. So in case of any mathematical equation, because here also when you are plotting the output of two variables, it's basically a mathematical equation only which is getting solved in the background, right? So this is like when we were in school, we used to chart, or when we used to plot points. So points are nothing but mathematical formulations of spaces. Okay, here I have two spaces. I have this as one space and this as the another space. That is why it is known as two dimensions, right? So this has created a plane like this box over here can also be called a plane. Okay, so this plane is created because I have two axes. One axis is the temperature, the other axis is the visibility in miles. Okay, now when I have this kind of a scenario that the data when plotted in this fashion is actually dividing the data into these two kind of parts, there is either some problem with the relatability of the data. Maybe this data and this data was not even supposed to be related to each other. Okay, let's say I'm trying to compare two data sets or two variables which are not to be compared. In that case, this kind of a scenario can occur. So that's the first problem. Or I have done the mathematical interpretation wrong, in the sense when I plotted the points, I have not taken the right value in x-axis as opposed to the y-axis. So maybe I can try to change this and set temperature as the y-axis and visibility in miles as the x-axis and see how it goes. So in this way, you may need to redo the visualization exercises inside the Jupyter notebook itself. Same thing applies for the precipitation in kind of value as well. Same thing is applying for wind direction degrees as well. So let me just try to save time. I'm going to copy paste. So let's just take this part. Okay, and let me come back over here. But this is not going to run because I've not run the cells. So let me just do one thing. Let me quickly delete this, and I'm going to First of all, take 2 minutes of yours, go to cell and say run all. This is going to run all of my cells. Let it import the library and load the data. Then we should be prepared. And then we should be able to do. In the meanwhile, if any one of you have any questions, maybe we can answer them. Oh, very good. So now what I am going to do, what is this each column? It has taken the last column already. So I'm going to change this, okay? This I'm going to put over here, and no, I'm just going to make it simple. Let's put this one only. So X, I'm just changing X and Y. Okay, so I'm going to say temperature here. And here temperature and wind direction degrees related. So what I'm going to do, weather dot this comma this, and then I'm going to say this. I'm going to remove this. Okay, let's see. Okay, now you can see there is some kind of a relationship that I can see, and the relationship from the previous diagram is just taken in the opposite way over here. So there is kind of a categorical differentiation or kind of a categorical relationship over here. Example given, if I have wind direction degrees within the range of, let's say, 0 to 150, I have a range of temperatures which is very, very scattered. I can't really comment whether the temperature is going to be as low as 26 degrees Fahrenheit over here, or maybe it's going to be scattered between 38 and 50 Fahrenheit over here. So these are, I can clearly understand these are going to be the outliers, because I've already seen the box plot of wind direction degrees. I understand there are outliers. But if I look at this area on the right hand side, I can clearly see the concentration of wind direction degrees is mostly between the range of 220 to 350, and within that range there is a very good spread of all the temperatures. So there is really no direct relationship between the wind direction degrees and the temperature, because all of the observed temperatures are equally spread. Okay, they are almost equally spread within the range of the wind direction degree. So this is a good indication that even after changing the axis, uh, the mathematical interpretation was not a problem. The problem was the interpretation of the data itself. So wind direction degrees was never going to be directly or indirectly related to temperature. Let's also see another very useful thing. Let's try to copy this and let's try to look into something which we are also going to look into at a later stage in very, very great depth, because there is an entire machine learning uh, thing that we do using this. So I don't think this is getting plotted well, because it's not taking the values in the right way. I don't know why. Maybe I'll have to see. I wanted to plot how with the date the temperatures are going on. So maybe scatter is not a good thing to do here. Let me try to see if there is any line plot kind of an option in matplotlib. Let's see, matplotlib PIPLOT time series. Okay, so I'm not going to explain what is time series right now, but very briefly I'm going to tell you what this means. I'm simply going to look at the code that it is trying to do. Okay, it is simply using plt.plot. So why not? I'm going to use plt.plot. Fine. So if I do a plt.plot, let me just also do one thing. Let me say plt.figure fixed size is equal to, let's say, 9,9. Okay, this is just going to make it a bit bigger. Okay, and I can clearly see there is an up down kind of a thing. I'm not able to see this very clearly. Let's see if I can increase this. No, this is increasing the depth. So let me make this bigger and let me make this smaller. Okay, so yes, now this looks good. Fine. So when the month started, the temperature was a bit down. Maybe it was because of the fact that there was cold. But then over a period of time, what I can clearly see, there has been increases. So there has been increase between this range of period. Let's say 7th until I can say 16th, the temperature was quite high, then it regained back. So this technique is very useful. This is something we're going to look into in great depth when we go into machine learning, because time series, this is known as a time series, where the x-axis is either a date or a time or a combination of both, where I'm just trying to see what is the trend. So this will look similar to any one of you who is interested into stock markets, because the trend line inside the stock market will almost always look like this, right? So over a period of time, how did the share prices of Infosys perform? So if I plot that on x-axis, I'm going to have the dates. On y-axis, I'm going to have the temp or the stock price, and then in that case, I will be able to understand how is the relationship. So I can't really find a very good relationship over here, and maybe the reason for this is that I don't have enough data, because the more good data you put, this is almost always true, the more good data you have as part of your analysis, and you've prepared it very well. And we are going to look at the preparation steps. We have already looked into some of the steps that we have done. We have cleaned some of the columns, as you have already seen earlier. We have imputed them. We have not seen much, but we are going to look into many more. And then if you have more data which is very clean and very processed in a very right way, then there is a very high kind of a probability that over a period of time your analysis is going to be very good. And if your analysis is good, your data is good, then any form of machine learning or deep learning that you may want to apply or you may have to apply is going to be giving you very good output as well, because this is the baseline. Without the baseline, the further things cannot be done, right? So this is what I wanted to quickly show. There are other things as well that I can do, but then you can clearly see there is a small problem over here. If I just go down, Matplotlib has a few limitations. First of all, the output that you see over here is purely like the science assignments which we used to do when we were kids, right? I mean, this looks like old school book. The second thing is, if you look at this, whether dot columns, if I do, I can see all the columns over here. Matplotlib out of the box is not providing any such feature where I can check the relationships between each and every column with any other column at the same point in time. Okay, example given, I would like to see the combination of EST column, okay, which is a date column, and a change in temperature with respect to EST, and then a change in dew point with respect to EST, humidity with respect to EST, and so on. If I would like to do that, I would have to loop it through, and then I have to do it like this, right? So I would have to use a loop which was something like this. I would have to take a loop, and the loop will be something like this, and then I will have to put it over here, and then I'll have to make some changes, not equal to, let's say, EST, yeah, temperature. Okay. This will be EST only. Not equal to EST is EST related to critical to true. X level is EST, Y level is this. I don't need this line. Maybe I can remove this, and here I can say EST, and then each column. This is very good. I'm not going to do a scatter. I'm simply going to do a plot. And if I do a plot like this, I can clearly see, I can understand the variation of each and every variable like dew point and humidity and so on and so forth. Let me just go back and use this. This one I will use. I will put it over here. So I'm going to say here. Okay, so let me just remove this as well, and then I'm going to say maybe b new cell. Let's now apply similar methods to check the relationship of each variable in the data over the EST feature or column. Okay, so I can further enhance this code. I can see I have only taken EST over here. In a similar way, I can do a loop inside a loop, and I can go through each and every column and try to find the relationship with every other column. In which case, I will be able to understand the visualization, and then I can try to find out a trend. Example given, dew point started increasing after a certain point in time. Then humidity was almost on the higher side. Sometimes it was low. Sea level pressure was higher during the start of the month, but not by the end of the month. Okay, visibility miles was always very high other than a few days. So other than a few days, visibility was not at all a concern. Then I have wind speed miles per hour. This is where there is a problem. I can see there are gaps, and I exactly know why there are gaps. I have not treated this column. There were three missing values. If you remember from the previous class, out of 31 rows, this column had three values which were missing, right? So that's why you can see the gaps over here. So visualization can also help you understand if there are missing values or gaps inside the data, which is very useful. Then you have this precipitation in where I see spikes sometimes, but not all the times. I also know the reason. Many a time the value was not available in this column. It was represented by a letter T. I had to impute that to a value 0. That may well be the case that majority of the value in this graph is equal to 0. Right, so these are kind of things that I can do using matplotlib, but this is not really a straightforward thing. This is not very intuitive, because again I have to wear that programmer hat of mine and I have to write some logic to have this in place. Now I would like to avoid that, because the more time I spend on coding is the less time I'm going to think about the analysis. I'll be diverted, I'll get dragged into coding things in a better way, which I should do, by the way. I must write very good code, and we are going to use, let's say, spider id and so on when we are going to do machine learning as well, because ultimately our aim will be to put things into production. But this is a data analysis project. We are not going to put this into production so that we can prove that we are very good software programmers. We are doing this analysis because we are trying to answer some business questions. So as intuitive our output, or as visual the output will be, the attractiveness is going to cost us more, right? It's going to give a lot more value to the analysis that we're doing. So that is where Seaborn does a very, very wonderful job. So the first thing I would like to do when using Seaborn, can we do the above analysis in a single liner using Seaborn library? If yes, that would be mm, great to remove the clutter of code and better visual organization. So that's exactly what we are going to try. And there is, luckily, there is already a library which I can use to do this. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. Let's plot the interrelationships of each of the features. Okay, so what I'm going to do, plt dot figure fig size is equal to 10 comma 10. I'll just take a very small kind of value. Then I'm going to say SNS. Why SNS? I've imported Cbond as SNS. So I'm using the alias Cbond or SNS dot pair plot. And I'm simply going to give it the data frame. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to do any loops. I'm not going to select any columns. I don't want to specify any x-axis, y-axis, and all these bullshit things. I'll just pass on the data frame. Okay, let's see what it does. PLT dot show. Okay, this function will take time. It's going to take time depending on how many variables you have inside the data. If you have more variables, this function is going to take time to return the value. But once it does, you'll not have to write even a single line of looping constructs to look at the relationship. You see, in a single graph, I have everything. I just have to figure out a way to read this. And then I have by default histograms as well. So let me just zoom this a little bit so that I can explain what is going on over here. So x-axis has all the variables. Y-axis also has all the variables, and I can see the relationship between variables in x-axis and variables in y-axis. Whenever there is a match, or whenever there is a conjugation, let's say this is wind direction in degrees, and this is also wind direction in degrees. So this cell is a match or a graph of the same feature. There we have the histogram. So looking at the histogram, we can clearly understand what kind of data distribution this variable has. Example given, sea level pressure in. It is quite normally distributed. There are a lot of, I mean, you can see there is a very good curvature which is being created over here. This is known as a normally distributed graph. We are going to look into this more when we look into statistics, but as of now you can clearly see this graph is looking better than this graph, right? I mean, this graph, I mean, look at this. This is exactly this should be visibility miles. Visibility miles is concentrated more, as we have seen, between 200, 250 to 350, 370, right? So that's why it's concentrated on one side. But look at this. This is really a very good shape. Okay, similarly this one looks like a factory. Okay, this one is also very good. This is really good. This is quite good. I mean, I'll not say this is very good. Had it been the case, we had a line over here, this would have been very, very good. Now from here we can also see the relationships. Now example given, this is dew point and temperature. Okay, dew point and temperature is very well linearly related. I can clearly see that. There is one more variable which is humidity, and humidity is related to what? Dew point. See, humidity and dew point has a good linear relationship, not very strong but good, right? So to concentrate on these kind of graphs, what I would suggest, you can see the diagonal elements. Okay, the diagonal elements are the histograms. Don't look at the upper side. Okay, only look at the lower side of the histogram, so you will be able to understand that everything else is actually a repeat, and then you can clearly understand what is the relationship. Example given, this is a very interesting relationship. Precipitation in. Okay, on the y-axis this is precipitation in, and on the x-axis, so what is this? Visibility miles. The visibility miles is very high, precipitation in is very low. If visibility mile is less, the precipitation in is very high. This is really a very good kind of an analysis, because now I can divide the data, or I can divide my situation into very good classes. Okay, this is another problem which we are going to solve when we look into machine learning. This is known as a classification problem. So we can really categorize our weather conditions based on this kind of variables, that whenever visibility miles is going to be very high, the precipitation in is going to be very low, and vice versa. So precipitation in is inversely proportional to visibility miles. So only by looking at this visualization, I've not done any machine learning. I've not done anything hilariously complicated and things of that sort, which needs a lot of math and so on. But only by looking at the visuals, I can clearly see there is a relationship. So is the case here. Okay, but it is not really divisible. Here it is clearly divisible. I can see there are two things created over here. This is sea level pressure in with respect to precipitation in. But when it comes to this graph, this is really divided very, very well. I have one section over here, one section over here, clearly divided. Okay. Everything else I have a very regular or a normal kind of a spread. I can't really do much of a differentiation, but I can do something over here. You see wind speed miles per hour, and this is wind direction degrees. This is also clearly separated. Okay, but not entirely. I can see there are some outliers over here as well. I mean, I can't really do a very good kind of a separation, but I can say that it is somewhat kind of separable, but not like this. This one was really, really very good. Okay, so these are kind of things that I can do with respect to Seaborn. Now, there is one more thing that Seaborn can really do very well, and that is known as a heat map. Now, there are many other functions, many other things in Seaborn, many other things in Matplotlib. I'm not going through each and every one of them, because I'm only going through those which are very commonly used when you are going to do a data analysis. Example given, in Matplotlib, you can also plot maps. Okay, maps in the sense, let's say I've taken the data of all the COVID-19 patients who are here in the Pune city, and I would like to plot that out in a map of the Pune city. So I can download the map of Pune city from any website, or maybe I can chart it out from by calling the Google APIs. And when I've done the charting of that map of the city, maybe I can get the latitude and longitude of each and every patient's house, right? And then I would like to plot them over that map to see where is the concentration of patients more and where is the concentrations of patients less. So this is a specific use case. You may not apply this to any other business. Example given, being in a telecom business or being in a retail business, let's say you are working in Flipkart. Would you really like to know what is the latitude and longitude or house address or concentration of your customers in a certain area? If you have good number of customers in Pune city, would it really help you to know whether you have good customers in, let's say, Kothurud area as opposed to some other area? Maybe or maybe not. You're not sure. Maybe for you, the delivery of Pune is too easy to handle. So you don't really need to bifurcate between these two areas, because Pune is not a very big city, right? I mean, I don't really need a lot of delivery people to manage such kind of a concentration. So there can be questions raised out of the business that can be answered by means of these, let's say, libraries. But not all of the functionalities are things which you are going to use every day. You are going to use certain set of functionalities every day, and that is what you need to know very well. If you know those basics, you can learn a lot of things. As you can see, maybe what I've ran only 10, 15, or maybe 20 cells at max, right? Out of them, there are few cells where I've loaded the data and so on and so forth. Using very simple methods, I was able to understand what the data is, how the structure is, how the deviation is, how the standard deviation is, how the data is spread, and so on. How are the outliers spread? How is the relationship between each and every variable as compared to others? So that's the intention. For if you want to look into great depth, you already have the libraries. You have the libraries, and you have the documentation. You have the documentation, you can go to that page, you can look into each and every function and so on. But I would not suggest that you do so, because the choice of the library or the function that you use is entirely going to depend on what problem you're trying to solve, or what question you're trying to answer. So look at it from the other side of thing. You have a question, you want to use a library to solve the problem. Don't look at it like I have 100 libraries or 100 functions inside matplotlib. Let's try to find out questions where I can use those libraries, or where I can use those functions, right? So the other thing which I wanted to show you is that, and to do this, I'll have to write some text. Okay, we have only 10 minutes, but I'll write some text first, and then I'm going to look into this. This is something we are going to look in again into great depth when we look into statistics, but this is very, very important. When you are doing any analysis, any statistical analysis or inferential analysis or any kind of, let's say, machine learning, you need to know that in your features, in the data set which you have, do you have any interrelationship or any correlation between the features or the columns which you have? Example given: if in the coastal areas, let's say, okay, I see that whenever, or that there was actually a story or an analysis which was done, I believe that was in the US, in the coastal areas of US, that whenever there is a high sale of ice cream, people dying because of shark attacks are also high. So if you plot two graphs, if you take two graphs, so let's say you have this y-axis and you have this x-axis. Okay. So on x-axis you have, let's say, so you have one graph which is something like this, and you have another graph which is something like this. So this graph represents the number of people who have unfortunately died because of shark attacks. Okay, and this graph represents the sales of ice creams over there. So you can see there is a direct correlation between these two things. But is that really related? I mean, people who eat a lot of ice creams are getting eaten by sharks is not really a very pragmatic thing to say, right? But then there is a hidden variable over here, and that is called summer. The moment the heat increases, the summer increases, we tend to eat more of ice creams. And that is also the same time when people will go to beach or shore areas more. And that's when the probability of they getting eaten or they getting eaten by a shark is increasing. That is why there is a correlation between these two variables. Now, why I am trying to take this example, or maybe I'll just delete this and get back to this example. So we clearly saw over here that this precipitation in, and the x-axis is visibility miles. There is a clear correlation, which is a negative correlation. Visibility miles increases, precipitation in decreases. This gives you very good relationship between the variables. You can try to understand the data in a very easy way. Now, you have already done that once. Why not do it in a different? Okay, so what we are going to do here is, let's take the statistical correlation between variables by means of numbers and visuals. Okay, first of all, we are going to look at some numbers. Let's check the correlation number. Okay, please don't worry about how this number is coming or how this is calculated. There is a formula, there is a way this calculation is done. We are going to look into it, so don't worry. Just consider this number as a value, or a strength. Example given, you say somebody who is 90 kgs in weight is more in weight than a person who is 60 kgs in weight. You are simply doing a comparative study of two values of weight in kgs, right? So 90 being greater than 60, you are saying a person with 90 kg weight is obviously more flabbier or more weight, or that there are more chances of that person getting health issues as opposed to a person who has 60 kg of the same age group, right? So how we get this number in a very statistical representation rather than looking into the scale, because in this case we are comparing weight to weight, so weight is going to be of the same scale. Why don't we compare x and y, where x has a different scale and y has a different scale, in which case I can simply do a pd.core and then I put the data frame like this and say core. Okay, so this CORR function is going to give me a table of all the correlations. Here, if you see, the diagonal elements are always 1. Why is it 1? Dew point is always 100% correlated with dew point. Increase in dew point is going to increase dew point, decrease in dew point is going to decrease dew point. We already know that. But what about the rest of the numbers? The range of the rest of the numbers falls between -1 to +1. This is the range in which correlation can fall. And I see 0.88 is the correlation value between temperature and dew point. Highly correlated. Temperature increases, dew point will increase. Okay. Can you find an example of a very negatively correlated value? Quickly, I can see this is one of the examples. Visibility in miles and humidity has a negative correlation, right? So this is one of the correlations I was able to find. But visually, if let's say you have a lot of variables, it is very difficult to find the exact values out of the numbers, right? So what do I do is to convert this into a visual effect. Is that visually, let's look into something known as a heat map. Okay, what I'm going to do, SNS dot heat map. Oh, sorry. Let me just do one thing as well. PLT dot figure fixed size is equal to 10.8. Okay, and then I'm calling SNS cbond. SNS dot heat map. Heat map is a function. I'm passing this weather dot core as a value, and then I'm going to say PLT dot show. Okay, I think I have. Oh, okay. Sorry, I've made a. Now the value is very clear. You see the diagram now. This diagrammatic representation is really very good. Anything which is dark in color has a negative correlation, very high. The color becomes dark, the correlation becomes negative. The color becomes light, the correlation becomes highly positive. Example given, this is a very high positive correlation. Anything which is on the diagonal is always wide, because that's where each and every variable is getting compared with itself. So the correlation will be highest here. But look at this. Dew point is very highly correlated with the temperature. Okay, what about this? Visibility miles. Visibility miles is negatively correlated with humidity. Even more, precipitation in is very negatively correlated with the visibility miles. Anything, you can take the diagonal and take any side. Take the left hand side of the diagonal or the right hand side of the diagonal. You get a mirror image actually. So you can take any one side and you can look into the values, and then you can clearly see which one is highly correlated and which one is not so highly correlated, only by looking at the shade of the color. And this clearly tells you, example given, that there is a good correlation between humidity and cloud cover, where there is a very strong correlation between humidity and dew point, because its color is even lighter than that. So this is a really nice way to plot a graph in which case we clearly come to know what is the relationship between each variable. Now you might be wondering, why am I doing this? I've already done that earlier using, let's say, pair plots. But this will be useful, very useful, when pair plots are going to take a lot of time. As you can see, pair plots is a function which takes each and every variable and tries to compare it with the other variable visually and not mathematically. It is not doing any calculations, or it is not doing any pre-mathematical calculation. That is the reason why it is slow. So because it is slow, it has a problem, obvious problem. I have a data set which has only 11 columns. Very good. I've dropped even one of the columns, right? There was an events column which had 25 or more than 25% null values. I've already dropped it. So I have only a data set, very small, 1 month of data, 31 rows and only 10 columns. This is a very minuscule kind of data. Imagine what happens, and that too in this kind of a data set, that SNS dot pair plot took a lot of time. What happens when I'm going to run this on a data set which has, I don't know, 40 variables? If I have a business context, then 40 variables is not a very big deal, right? So in that case, Seaborn is going to be slow, and then it is not going to be that much visual when it comes to looking at the correlation. It is good at looking at the histograms. It is good at looking at the linear relationships. I can clearly look at the linear relationships and linear differentiations. Example given. I'll quickly go back and show you again that here in this case, I have a very good linear discrimination. Okay, this is precipitation in and this is visibility minus. Very good, clear, linear discrimination. And here I have a very good linear relationship between dew point and the temperature column. So this kind of relationship, also the fact that as a combined unit I'm getting all the histograms, that's good. But correlation is really more useful, and we are going to look into this in great depth, how this is calculated and what is the meaning of this, where we are going to use this, especially when we do machine learning with a data set with too many number of variables. How can we use this and so on? But I think we don't have time now, so maybe we can close it here. Have a good weekend. We will see you again on to Monday. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Okay, thanks all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.